Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley.
And I'm Mark Langley.
We normally answer a few horse-related questions in our podcasts, but today we're going to try something new. If you've just got a couple of minutes spare, perhaps you're just popping out to the shops for something, we're going to give you a quick practical tip. It's only going to be a few minutes long. That is if all goes to plan and if Mark is able to stay on track. So Mark, in this mini tips episode, we're going to talk about ropes. It's a question that's come through from Helen from Australia. Can you just talk us through about when you use a shorter lead rope or perhaps a longer lead rope? What's dictating what you're trying to achieve with the two tools?
So in training young horses or nervous horses that need a distance from a person, like foals, things like that, then most commonly I'd have a long lead rope on them and just teach them about boundaries and following the lead rope in a basic fashion until they get a bit more trust in the lead, having the lead on them. And obviously at a distance from the person, they're not intimidated by having the person up close and personal to them. So you can get a lot done on a long lead rope, and that's where you'd put a long lead rope on an uneducated horse. Then when the horse gets in a little closer, that's when I'd transfer to a shorter lead rope where I can get better balance, control, better, and also they get used to that feeling of they need to get used to not worrying about the entrapment of, pressure being a little closer to them when they make decisions. So you're narrowing down the boundaries, you're getting more lift and more balance in the horses, better body control on the short lead rope and things like that. And then you transfer back to the long lead rope, where when they're balanced and they're going really well, you send them back out on a long line again, and from a distance you'll have a more fine-tuned control through the long lead rope, and you can do similar things, not all of them, at a distance because of that refined control you have from the in-hand work that you did when the lead rope was shorter and you were using that short lead rope.
Are there any scenarios where you get a really well-trained horse but you put them on that long lead rope for a particular reason?
Yeah, some of the most obedient horses, when people say I do liberty with a horse, I say, yeah, but you're doing liberty in a round pen. So that round pen is a boundary that's stopping the horse from leaving. If you didn't have the round pen, the horse would leave, and that'd be true liberty. And I say, I'm doing liberty on a rope. And they say, but it's on a rope. And I said, yeah, but that rope's just a boundary. So when the horse goes and finds the end of the rope, I might pick up the rope and say, that's as far as you can go before, But in between, this distance in between, then you can search. So a lot of hyper-focused, very obedient horses, I'll put on a long line and really try and see if I can give them enough space to feel that they can be a little naughty, make a few mistakes, and then start to think for themselves, opposed to hyper-focus on the pressure or doing all the cues that they were taught to do. So in opening up some of the very obedient horses to actually search and make decisions opposed to just follow the cues of pressure, I'll put them on a long rope.
And what about if they're a little bit nippy?
Nippy horses, I tend to work at a distance, and I try and be quite clear through my boundaries and questions through a longer rope. And on a longer rope, the nippy horses, I'll create a bubble that's big enough so they can't be near me to nip. And when they're in a nice mindset, when I bring them in close, they're not going to nip.
And there's another rope that you use other than the lead ropes, and that is the long reins. When do you flick to those?
Well, the long reining, and for people who know my ropes, the long rein is a 6 metre rope. So basically, one of the long reins is my rope that I use when I'm working at a distance on a longer rope, and the weight's a little bit thinner because the thickness of the rope is a little smaller. When I convert to 2 reins, I tend to have the horse at a stage where I can be in all positions around it. It's not frightened. It's had the rope over its back, around its rump, things like that. It can walk away in a straight line and it understands, that it's safe in all positions. For people who are new to long reining, I definitely, if I had a horse that was frightened of driving pressure and wanted to squirt and get away a little bit, I do a lot more softening work on one rope, and then when the horse is pretty comfortable with us around it, moving with them, close to them, there's no kicky areas, stuff like that, no squirty areas where they squirt away, then basically you'd start to think about putting the long reins on them.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. You did it in under 5 minutes. If you're interested in learning more about how you use these ropes and the different techniques, especially with changing from 1 long rein to 2 long reins and how you do that, it is all covered in our long reining series online. Thanks, Mark. That was great tips.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, everybody.
If you'd like to ask Mark your question and get his insights to help you and your horse, it's easy to join Mark Langley online. Head over to marklangley.com.au and hit join. It's less than a couple of coffees. And the Q&A is just a piece of a whole package designed to support you and your horse with great training.